Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing an update video on what's going on with this little thing. Now, this is my 1986 Nissan 300ZX that you guys may or may not have seen before on the channel. This car I've done a little bit of work on, taking the cam out, taking it down to the drag strip, you know, just a little bit of fun stuff. If you don't know much about it, rust-free 2+0 car. It was a factory turbo car. I bought it with a 3.3 liter Nissan Pathfinder motor with a turbocharger slapped on it. That engine, after a little bit of driving, turned out that it ended up having a cracked cylinder wall, so I pulled that out and I slapped an LQ9 in here with a T5 behind it. Now that motor was fantastic. Plenty of power for this car, and it just ran great. Never had an issue with it, but I came across this. Now, I bought just this block and pistons together, which aluminum block, which was one of the main reasons for this upgrade, because it'll make it about 100 pounds lighter overall, which is very good. And then this is a LS3, so it's 6.2 liter, and these are prefix pistons. With prefix is a TA2 manufacturer. These pistons are actually made by Diamond, but they're made for prefix to slap in their TA2 motors, which is what this block was. This engine came out of one of the Camaros they were used for TA2 racing, had less than 1,000 miles on it, and it spun a cam bearing. It just wiped the bearings, but they thought it spun, so they didn't want to have to remachine the block, so they just sold it to me. So I bought the pistons and the block together for $400, which is an absolute steal. I mean, this is a literal LS3 6.2 liter block that has less than 1,000 miles on it, because it was used for, I think they said 1 or 2 races. So barely any miles. I mean, look at how clean the pistons are. They just have a little bit of tarnish right in the middle on all of them. These pistons alone are around $900 new and barely any markings. This block is an aftermarket GM block, and it's $2,500 brand new, and I got it both for $400. So absolute steal, and that's another reason why this is going to be going in there, because I got the motor. It's a great motor. Why not just build it and throw it in this car and make this car even better and lighter? Let's spin this over, and I can show you what's going on in the bottom end. I just tried to find a flashlight and can't seem to find one anywhere, so I guess we're looking at this in the dark. So we have a Chevrolet Performance 6.2 crank, which is the same stroke as a 5.3 and a 6.0. But this is a forged crankshaft with an 8-bolt flywheel pattern. Handle a little bit more power back there. It's got a 58 tooth. Yes, 58 tooth crank trigger wheel. And it is a keyed crankshaft. Kind of hard for me to show you that. There's a keyway right there. So if we do supercharge it, it won't spin the pulley. It has Eagle H-beam rods in it. These are 6100 rods with a .927 pin. Obviously ARP bolts here, and we do have ARP main studs, which, might I add, I did not purchase. These came with this block. So those alone I think are about $400 to $500, which is more than the price that I paid for everything. So absolute deal. Back at the top end of this motor, we have LS7 lifters installed in here, which are supposed to be better flowing and better oiling than regular LS lifters. So those should help the camshaft last longer without wiping any loads. New lifter trays. We have a comp cams, one of these little tab holders to hold the bolts in place. This is also a comp cams 3-bolt to front cam sensor adapter, whatever you call that, gear. Yeah. We have the same exact camshaft. It's a brand new one, but it's the same camshaft that I installed in this car in the 6.0 earlier in another video that you guys can look up on the channel if you want to see all the specs. I think the sheet for it is actually right here. Yeah, so if you want to see the specs, you can just pause the video quick and take a look at everything. This is everything that cam has. Really decent cam, and I love this cam, so that's why I run it. Now, let's take a look back in that corner that is an absolute mess right now. This mess that you're looking at right here, you might not be able to tell what it is just by the area you're looking at here, but Mark Richmond, if you're watching this, you're going to be very proud of me. This is the internals of a T56 LS1 transmission. There's the front plate. Here's the housing and tail shaft that I just have laying here. The reason I pulled this apart, I bought this transmission for fairly cheap, $1,100. But he said that putting it into third gear, it ground sometimes and made some clunking noises. Well, I pulled it apart to replace the synchros, and synchros did need replacement. They're a little bit worn down, not looking the greatest. Here's one of them. That one's not that bad. But here are our synchronizer assemblies. So if you don't know, this is kind of what engages into the gear when you're shifting. These teeth kind of mesh with the other ones, almost like a starter gear. They just kind of slap together and then click in. And you can see just how ground down the tips of those teeth are. This is one of the worst gears. I believe this is the 5/6 synchronizer assembly, and this one's pretty bad. The gears aren't horrible. That is, I believe that's 5th gear? That's either 5th or 6th gear. That one's not horrible. Nowhere near as bad as the assemblies, because these are supposed to be a little bit softer metal to take most of the damage. So I am going to be replacing all 3 of the forward driving synchronizer assemblies, which is these 3. This is the reverse one. I'm not going to worry about that. It doesn't barely have any damage on it anyway, so I'm not worried. This is our 3rd, 4th. You can see these teeth are pretty bad too. This side's not bad, not that horrible. I think this is the 3rd gear one, and this is 4th gear, based off that line, because this line typically goes towards one side. Here's our 1st, 2nd. So 1st gear side barely even has any damage to it. I mean, just a few nicks. That's because most of the time when you're sticking it in 1st gear, you're out of stop. 2nd gear is pretty bad. I mean, this is the gear you're slamming it into most of the time. Whenever you're taking off from a light, this you're going to slam into the hardest. Now, 2nd gear is also not that one. Is it that one? Yes, it is that one. This is 2nd gear. All the teeth on here are really bad on the gear itself. So I'm thinking somebody already replaced this synchronizer assembly and didn't replace the gear just because of how bad these teeth are. There's no way that these teeth got that bad, because they're not even that bad on the synchronizer assembly. So somebody replaced just the synchronizer assembly and not the gear. And I went over it. I don't know if I'll be able to find them right now. There they are. There are 2 little chips in the gear right there. Just kind of looks like someone whacked something off of the gear when they were rebuilding it last time and just didn't bother to actually fix it. So I am going to be replacing 2nd gear in this as well, just to get all fresh new teeth in there and everything. It's only like $140 for a new one. And then we got all 3 synchronizer assemblies. We also got a brass shift fork kit. Wherever my shift forks are, here's one of them. I think this is the 5/6 shift fork. They have nylon ones from the factory, which you can see they're kind of squished and worn out. I had a cracked one on one of my sets of shift forks. It was actually cracked, so I think it's this one right here. Yeah, this one's cracked. I can't show you because I don't know if I can pick this up without everything falling off of it. But yeah, we have a cracked shift fork pad on this one. Other than that, transmission's all in really nice shape. All the bearings look great. All the gears look great. Nothing's worn down. This does have what I wouldn't say every single one, but most T56s are known for. 5/6 gear on the main shaft is supposed to be pressed on. And as you see, this is not pressed on. However, it does still fit really snugly to the point where if I actually like slide it down on there with a little bit of force, I have to tap it back off. So it's not as bad as most of them I've seen. So I'm just going to ignore it, not have the shaft sent out to have build up and then ground back down to a higher tolerance, because whatever, it'll be fine. This is the faceplate for it. This all looks good. These bearing, I can't remember the name for this. Whatever it is, this looks good. Where the bearing rides on, the seals look great. These actually all look like they've just been replaced, so I'm not even going to replace them because Tremec themselves say if the bearings all look good, you can put it back together and not have to worry about reshimming it. So I'm not touching them. Let's get one of these out of the bag so I can show you those. Now here is one of our 243 cylinder heads that we're going to be putting back on this motor. 2 reasons I'm running these heads. 1, I already had them in the shop. 2, higher compression. 3rd reason that I didn't say earlier, this LS3 did not come with cylinder heads. I know they came with like the 823, I think is, square port heads. Didn't come with them. These ones have a smaller chamber anyways, so they're probably better to run. I just got them back from the machine shop today after getting them decked. Just did a valve job on them, so all these valves are freshly lapped in and all good to go. We have all new seals and springs on this thing. I mean, these heads are ready to get slapped on there. These are the heads that I had in an earlier video of me porting them. All the supports are now done. Let's see if I can get a better shot of these ones. Yeah, they're all ported, all cleaned up and all ready to go on the motor. I may be putting these heads on tonight. I'm not sure. We'll see how I'm feeling after, because that's the outside right now. It's dark. So I think it's around almost 9 o'clock right now, so we'll see if I feel like doing that work. But yeah, these are really nice heads. I'm really glad to actually have something this clean to go on that motor. I am going to paint them just the aluminum color, just to not have this crappy of a looking surface on that shiny of a motor. A few other things we're going to be doing to this car is I'm going to go over this engine bay and try to tidy up some wiring. I mean, we have these relays for the fan and water pump that are just flopping around over here. Some of this wiring I know I don't need anymore, but some of it is for the headlights. As you can see, I have one up and one down right now. That's because I accidentally cut this wire when I was cutting out this cross member right here in the front. So I'm going to have to rewire this, and I also may need to rerun it, because obviously I'm not just going to leave it plopped right there across the middle with nothing to support it. So I may run it down underneath or right up here, right in the front and back over. Just something to get it out of the way. But we're going to pressure wash this, clean it up, take everything off, and probably paint the engine bay nice. Another thing we're going to be doing is I have front calipers for this car that I got off of Mark Richmond. I traded him an aluminum 5.3 engine that I had in the shop. And all I need to do is order the rotors for those. The rotors I'm getting are around $200 for the set. They're just Brembo 350Z front rotors I need to buy. I already have the brackets and the tap and everything and the calipers. I may need to get new brake hoses as well. I'm not sure about that. I never actually checked too far into it, but we need to get that done, and we need to get the engine bay cleaned up. Now, one of the issues with all that is this car has a wedding it's supposed to be to in October to make a little showing at for my buddy, because he has a Z32 350Z. Obviously I have a Z31. We want to get both these cars to that wedding and have them sit next to each other and have a little photo shoot there. Now, I wasn't planning on pulling this car apart this early, but I sold the old engine and transmission out of it, so obviously they needed to come out, so now the car's in pieces. So I need to hurry up and get this put in there, get that trans back together and put in here. Once I get the engine bay cleaned up, painted, and both of those in there, I may wait on the brakes. And another thing I'm planning on doing is moving the battery to the back where the spare tire well is over here. And I may wait on that until the engine and trans are in and running and everything, because all I have to do is run cables all the way to the back. So that's not too hard to do with the engine and everything in there. So our main goal is to get engine and trans in, running, get the engine bay cleaned up and painted, because I can't do that with the engine and trans in there. So get all that done, and then drive this thing to the wedding and hopefully have 0 issues, because we never have those. Perfect. Everything's going to be great. Now, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. It's just a little update on this. I know it's shorter than most of the videos I do, but just about everything I'm going to be doing on this car, except maybe putting the cylinder heads on this motor tonight, I will be filming. So you'll see me crawling around in this engine bay trying to clean it up, making the new motor mounts I'm going to be making for it, probably solid in the front and a polyurethane one in the rear. One more thing, I'm going to be adding a either 2.5 inch or 3 inch exhaust. We're going to do duals. So I have to figure out how to run duals out of the back of this chassis. I'm not sure how hard it's going to be because I haven't looked under it yet to see if there's anywhere to run them. I know the single went out that side over the rear subframe. So we're going to see if we can do that maybe on both sides of the subframe or just run a dual out of that side on the subframe. So thanks for watching. I hope you stay tuned to watch everything I do to this car in the near future, and have a good day.